Well, here we are again, folks, with this last prophet here, Jeremiah. In the book of Jeremiah, we find that he was in the little village of Antioch, about 2 miles northeast of Jerusalem, and there was born in 625 BC. And he was just a boy then. Jeremiah loved the sights and sounds of the countryside. He also became very familiar with the great city of Jerusalem and its beautiful temple. And when he was in his late teens or early 20s, Jeremiah heard the Lord calling him to be a prophet. And the young man felt too young, too immature to be a prophet. But God answered him and said, "Say not, I am a child. For thou go to all I shall send thee, and whatsoever I command thee thou shalt speak. Be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, saith the Lord." And with this sense of divine call, Jeremiah undertook his task. I'm going to start right there for 1 second. I'm going to invert something right here. This is still a statement for you and I. We ought to go out, and we ought to win the lost. We ought to go out on the street corners. We ought to go out on the sidewalks. We ought to go out first to our neighbors. And then if God calls us to stand before a group of people, we are to not pay attention to their faces. Don't pay attention to them. If you do, it'll scare you to death. It will rob you of your ability to be able to preach what God would have you preach because of the faces. You've got to figure out some way to not look at what the devil's doing to you while you're up in the pulpit, while you're on that area and you're looking out at the people. You will get daggers. You can actually see them coming from eyes. You can see fire, flames of fire from eyes. You can see all kinds of things. Let me tell you one of the things that God showed me to do. I usually pick out somebody with a pad and a pen. In my case, it's usually a girl, small girl, maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, with a pad and a pen, interested, writing down what I'm saying. And therefore, I pick her out, or him, a young boy, or whatever, and I preach the message to them. And they write it down. And I'm happy, and they're happy. And all the rest of them can do burn up in their own fire, as far as I'm concerned there. Now, Judah had just crowned a new king, Jehoiakim, in the autumn of 609 BC, when Jeremiah delivered the startling sermon in the temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. Speaking for God, he said, "If ye thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you'll thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if ye oppress not the stranger and the fatherless and the widows, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt, then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land I gave to your fathers, forever and ever." Boy, is that something. Italics, that one is. Forever and ever. But Jeremiah warned that if the people did not repent of their sinful ways, their glorious temple would be destroyed. Now, you know, they had spent much time and money building this great temple. Hey, those who heard Jeremiah were so angry that they wanted to kill him. But he stood his ground, and with courage, and continued to prophesy. And the king, Judah, Jehoiakim, was pompous and proud. And furthermore, he allowed many of the old pagan practices to creep back into the religion of the Jews. Therefore, Jeremiah denounced Jehoiakim severely. Wow. Here's a prophet denouncing a king, a head guy. Now on March 16th, 597 BC, the Babylonians conquered Jerusalem and the king, and many Jews as captives to Babylon, and the temple was looted of its precious vessels of gold. And then the Babylonian king set Zadok on the throne of the puppet ruler. For 10 years he was loyal to the Babylonians, but then he began to plot with the Egyptians against Babylonia. Once again, the Babylonians' armies marched into Judah and besieged Jerusalem. And after a year and a half, in August 587 BC, they captured Jerusalem with terrible vengeance, and they burnt the temple and the place and broke down the city walls. All the Jews were taken as prisoners to Babylon. Whew. Every single solitary time God's people rejected what God said, God had to bring fire upon them. He had to rain wickedness on them, and they had to see it. Well, during Zedekiah's fateful reign, Jeremiah wore a yoke as a symbolic way of saying that he was God's will for Judah to submit to Babylon rule rather than to fight against it. And the nations that bring the neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, those will I let remain still in their own land, saith the Lord. This was the most unpopular message Jeremiah was put in prison. But Jeremiah was not just a prophet of doom. He believed that in the future God would build up the Jewish nation if the people would repent and return to God. Jesus himself came to fulfill every single solitary prophecy of Jerusalem. Jesus came to fulfill it. We'll come back and we'll open that eastern gate and we'll fulfill those prophecies in the future to come. And that was just a short little excerpt right there on that prophecy right there of Jeremiah. You need to read the book of Jeremiah. Find the book of Jeremiah and read the whole book. How they took him, how they put him in a well, how they treated him, how he's a bald-headed man. And a bunch of youths came out, a whole bunch, a crowd of them, 100 or so. And they were running after him, throwing stones at him. And he called the bears out of the wilderness and told the bears, go get them kids. And the bears chased them kids down. And then they took him and they put him in a well. And he had been in the well for many days, and he was sunk down, armpit deep. And some good guys came along. One of the best guys in the whole Bible that was ever talked about helped him out of that well. And that man's name will go down in the annals of heaven. I believe he will be sitting at the head of a table in heaven for pulling Jeremiah out of that well. And they let the cords down, and then they let old rags down there and told Jeremiah, put them underneath your arms so it won't pull your armpits out, Jeremiah. And they let him down, and they brought him up out of the well without being hurt, pulled him up out of the muck and the miry clay. Read the story of Jeremiah, how he was and how he was a weeping prophet, how he wept for the people, how he was in distress weeping for the people, and they didn't believe him. But God has got a special place in heaven where Jeremiah is today. He's in there. He's in a place today of comfort. And he's where God would have him on a pedestal up there because of what he did. It wasn't an easy life he was sent to do, but he did what he was supposed to do, and he didn't fail in his job. Well, we'll see you next time when we get on this next one that we're going to do.